Yeah, welcome again to this presentation. So just let me introduce ourselves. This is the agenda. My name is Stephan Fischli, so I'm CEO from IDP Commerce. This guy to the left-hand side is Antonio Palumbo. He is a principal engineer for developing of this tool. So my agenda for today is to go with you through these various points here. Means a little bit talk about the good BPMN, what's bad BPMN, and we have a small presentation for you prepared how we think we can visualize this BPMN quality, and the end is a conclusion. So just a small time for the company presentation. IDP Commerce is located in Switzerland, Bern, so we have around 4,000 licenses worldwide of this solution. Around the solution, it's a Visio add-in, so that means it extends to Visio, in fact, the Microsoft platform. So our purpose is modeling, organization, and automating and documentation of the processes, all based on the BPMN standard. So what is in the box? So we have a product called Modeling Solution. So this product can do, in fact, there's 4 main services for you, and based on a team solution. There's a database behind that where we store the models, reuse of elements, history, and all the nice features we have already here today. So I will not go too deep to all these features. So we implemented since 10 years for this product, 31 years of development. So just some pictures or screenshots for that. The modeling solution looks like that. The just-in-time validation is always running against various validators. One of the most popular is probably the BPMN Method and Style validator. So it's embedded in the Visio, so that means we use the Visio front end. Totally, there's no limitation through our product. It's totally integrated. So in the Visio, you have on the left-hand side the so-called stencil. All the elements are flexible or dynamically configurable through the user. On runtime, the repository database in the background is represented with a Explorer. So it's nothing special, but we have all the document, the trees, all the reused elements can be written there. So the documentation is one of the coolest features. So we can produce Word documents, in fact, also PDFs on your own definition with your own corporate design based on Word templates. We can regenerate the existing documents and fill up the data into these documents on runtime. Another feature is, of course, the portal, the HTML export to go through the models with a browser, based on the HTML, to have navigation possibilities, searching in the models, attaching documents, and all these things can be used for communicating models in the company. Also, one of the biggest issues is this round trip against whatever. Can say against BPMS, it's one of your round trip against other models, against our own versioned models. So that means we're getting back models from external sources or from internal sources and report the various changes on this model to let the user decide what to do with that. Take it over, waste, or make it as here to a XML level and export it to or import it from an XML niveau. All is based on BPMN 2 standard. So we have an internal meta model. It's fully and totally based on BPMN 2. Nothing special added. Yeah, and lots more of such features are in this product. I do not like to go deeper for that, so we have it all. Just ask me what we can do for you at that point. My key for this speech today is to go more to the BPMN quality. So 10 years of modeling, so it's my background. I started with BPMN modeling 2002, first time. And then we went into this bpmi.org organization to define the BPMN. 10 years after, we have today such interesting things. So we have real standards and ONG, nothing new, but it's good to say. Many promises, a lot of promises, but some kept, not all. And an impressive BPMN modeling community. So if I have a look at that, it's impressing me. So thousands of people are today involved in this BPMN modeling stuff. But we have also hundreds, thousands of models, which it's in my mind, it's just not a good BPMN, so you can say it's a bad BPMN. What does it mean, bad BPMN, or lack in quality models? So I see a lot of that every day in my consulting life. I will see that by customers. What does it mean? First time, what does it mean, a good BPMN? So a definition for that. Bruce did define it, try to find a way to say how we can do good BPMN. I totally agree with that. We tried to promote that in the tool. 100% of all the rules are implemented, many more, including the specification, to guide the user to make no errors, spelling, syntax, or semantic errors on it. Over the years, I found following wording, so it's my definition of a good quality. So I looking always for consistent, accurate, unambiguous, and on the end also, pleadingly, models. Nice phrase, but what to do with that in the real life? So how we can realize that? Is there any other rules around? Or can I have from the spec some input of that? No, not really. That's I think it's not it's nothing surprising. Yeah. So the good quality seems something magic. So if you ask Roman, is it good quality? Oh yeah, it's good quality. It's like, why? Don't know. Looks like. I would like. Or I like it. Looks good. Whatever. Why is it like that? So is it so complicated or not? So if you go to this well-known process of improvement, so it's nothing new, but we have some things on it. So the process model on top, this is what we do first. We go, and the best case, we make a clean method and style compliant diagram. So this diagram should be interchanged, so we need an interchange model. Probably it's the same as we have here, but we learned that we have to have a look for various things and small details on it to make this model looking same on another system. Let's say we do interchange, we do it here with scenario, so it should looks like the same. One actual small issue for that is our shapes are smaller than yours. Yeah. So if you import that to our model, so we have bigger shapes on it. Now, what to do with that? You know, let me direct you from your tool, or we clean it up, or flat it up to a new shape form, etc. Such small pieces of cake are harming people often for interchanging. Other thing is the execution model. So bringing this model out to BPMS system. So there are various people here who can run directly BPMN 2. Very good. So we like it. So the idea is to make an execution model, give it out to an external engine. Let's say the Eclipse Stardust. It's one of our projects. We are working on it. It's a pure open source process engine. Not yet very good for BPMN 2, but we will solve that. And in the end, we have there a really powerful BPMS. Totally open source. What does this system do? This system will add information to such models, and we have to bring this information back to the modeling without any loss of data. In fact, last but not least, is this simulation stuff also on it. So for that, it's also a known model necessary, or rules at least necessary, to make a BPMN model simulating the reality here as an example, a model which can be simulated. Of course, optimization and analysis of the data is built in. So around this round trip here, we have various aspects, requirements, the end various models. which are necessary. One of these tools here is Optima. I think Rupert Shapiro will talk about this a little bit tomorrow, if he can. We have an interface to this Optima build up, and as you can see later on, we have also actually probably a specification for that in the near future. Okay, the characteristics of such a quality. So the process model from the form picture, so we can make some validation here. Let's say the BPM Method and Style rules would be checked up. And of course the specification. The interchange model requires a little bit more. Probably the analytical subclass as a base would be great if it can support at least this one. Probably not 100%, or the BPMI profile, which is now going to the MI, as I learned today from you. So we will probably have here a good base for the future, so you'll send. The execution model, so it's often identified by the executable conformance subclass, but it's a half of the tools, the executable conformance subclass is a little bit too low, or too less elements supported today. So probably we can also go with this interchange model to a more executable change up. And the simulation model requires probably something new, as this specification also from WFMC, which requires or which defines the interface between tools to simulation infrastructure. So all these models give us a quality or give us metrics for quality. So the hard ones are the easy ones. Syntax errors are hard. Yeah, it's not hard to find, but hard facts. And the fuzzy ones are probably more difficult to define. So the easy ones are the violations. So we can count the violations in the BPMN. We can count the violations against such specifications. The conformance, it's not too hard to solve, to show is this model conform to an analytical model or not. The more fuzzy thing is probably the complexity. Statistics for 10 BPMN elements. How often do I use, let's say, event-based gateways or such things? The consistency tries to understand how is the model linked together, how much not model sub-processes are on this model, etc. So this is also an indicator for another good quality. And the most fuzzy is probably the vagueness. Tries to get indications for misunderstanding. Saying you are using elements which could be misunderstood from the people outside of the world. So how to identify them? So this is probably the most fuzzy. There is nothing, no specification, no rules around. So you're invited to help us to make here more standardization or more hard facts around this. So Antonio will just show this, how is it implemented in the tool for a few minutes. How we do that with process model.
So yeah, I'm just going to show you quickly how we visualize this in Process Modeler. I'm just going to open up a sample diagram here. This is something we received from one of our clients, and I'm just going to quickly validate this diagram. We already see here there's quite a few errors, spec mistakes, and method and style errors. Then let's see at a model quality. I can pick one of the 4 processes in this diagram and just get an overall quality score. For this process, I can validate against the 4 models mentioned earlier, the process analysis, process execution. Right now, if we just looked at the overall process quality, we see it's not very good, but it's still acceptable. It's still in the orange, Then if I activate process execution, we see things change a little bit. It's getting in the red bit, so this is not a really good process here if you want to execute it. We can see here, this is the list of key data of things we check, and these columns show which data is relevant for whichever model we just picked. So we've got here the categories we saw earlier, the violations. We've got here the number of BPMN errors, which is red with not good, method and style. Then we see here the conformance subclasses. So this process seems to satisfy both descriptive and analytic subclass, but not so much a common executable subclass. Then we've got a few values to calculate the complexity of the process, the consistency, are there any unlinked sub-processes, any unlinked call activities, and things like that. And the vagueness, which is also very interesting, which is probably the hardest bits to get, as Stephan was saying earlier. We have here, for example, a value like the ratio between flow elements with comments and all flow elements. Usually, if there is too many elements which need a comment, that would suggest that the process itself is not very self-explanatory if it needs all these comments. So yeah, you'd lose some points there. And yeah, all these values are then saved within the diagram and also within the database, so they can be accessed straight in the database and yeah, used to work with later, as I'll show something later on as well.
Thanks, Antonio. Yeah, so what's the next step behind this? So it's a nice feature, gives you some indicators, but one of the probably of the best target for such values could be a maturity model. So we heard about yesterday Paul's speech. So today we have, I would say, 8 significant maturity models. Some are here defined. All these models have the same background. They tries to find the method, criteria and goals, and defines maturity levels, 1 to 5 often. And so it tries to give you an idea from no process management to mature process management. So this is a good indicator how good is your BPM implemented in your company. Example, BPMN by OMG since 2008, not too much movement there, but probably it helps us to understand what I'm trying here to say. It's we have levels, we have process areas, the practices, and the maturity levels. As I heard and yesterday, so I was lucky with that. So we are fighting actually today in these levels, as you said. So it's exactly the same as I feel here. And the hardest jump is from level 2 to level 3, because often people our companies are not able to go to level 3, staying there. Once we are here, so we have probably good input from these process models, because process models are in the center of all the analysis which do it today in such companies. So again, the maturity levels for a model, so the maturity characteristics. And if you go to this level 3 and 4 is the question, how can I get input for that levels from process models? Probably one could be the KPI definition. It's not BPMN, but it's probably able in the tool to collect that. So we are able to do that. The status of a diagram, it's also not BPMN, but you can probably store it in the database behind this this diagram. So we do it also in the database. And the organizational modeling, probably the mapping between roles and organizational units could be a good input for this one. And these 4 models I introduced before are probably also style-proofed or infected with such rules and with values which are good to saying what good to collect all this data to a maturity matrix, to a maturity report. So our intention in process model development is to give you a valuable tool which help you to produce these values for the maturity model. So deliver them in Excel as an example, or or in another form, but you give input to such models. So that's the impact for that. Probably you can show that also in our last demonstration. So we have a big database, 200 or 120 process models behind from a customer, all are together and linked. And Antonio will quick show.
So yeah, what I have here is this process chain or process map. We can see here that this process map points to quite a few documents and numerous processes therein. And what we can do is we just create this quality report over this process chain. So the quality report will run through all processes that are somehow connected to this process chain. So whatever the process map is pointing to, and then if there is processes within with call activities that call other processes, those processes will also be taken and put into this calculation. This is pretty much the result, what we get out of the report. We have here a list of all the processes, and these are all the values that we saw earlier in that small dialogue I was showing earlier. And what we can do now, we have all this data, and we can calculate stuff or just show statistics. For example, like here I have 71 processes. 9 seem to be very good in accordance to process analysis. 56 are acceptable, 6 are poor, 6 others are very poor. If we look at execution, it looks a bit different. We only got 1 very good one, 3 which are good, 53 okay, and 12 poor, and so on. Now, if we look at the requirements for the level 3 of BPMN that Stephan was talking about, we see here, for example, all these processes, they have a total number of violations of 170. There's 29 processes which are very good, actually, don't have any violations at all, and 42 which do. So this gives us a value of 2.39 violations per process. Then same thing for method and style. We can look at the distribution. We see that most processes will have somewhere between 0 and 5 errors in method and styles. Then further up here, it becomes a bit less. Same thing with complex model patterns. We see here the diagram consistency. We see that most, but not all processes have completed sub-processes. All seem to have completed call activities. That is, they have call activities which actually call something, either a process or a global task. And all tasks seem to be typed as well, so there's not any non-type tasks.
Yeah, okay, so
good.
I would say, so we're through. So there are a lot of more of values here to explain. So you're, as I said, invited to help us probably to improve this tool here or this values on it. So just give me one last half minute. So as I can conclude here for this speech is how you can improve the quality. My experience is focus on the model you're working with. Do not focus on all. So if you go to, let's say, an execution, so you have to focus there. Second one, follow the rules. Make it over the time better and better. Probably such things here are important. For sure, this one are very important. Semantic control and improve continuously. It's a must to getting better in that. And in the end, so BPMN process models can be delivered this or the significant input for your quality level of your BPMN models. Thanks a lot.